Would the defendant please rise? With regard to count one, we, the jury in the above captioned case, find the defendant, Brooke Skylar Richardson, not guilty of the offense of aggravated murder, and there appear to be 12 jury signatures affixed. Verdict form 2, involuntary manslaughter. We, the jury in the above captioned case, do hereby find the defendant, Brooke Skylar Richardson, not guilty of the offense of involuntary manslaughter. Count 3, child endangerment. We, the jury, find the defendant, Brooke Skylar Richardson, not guilty of child endangerment. It does say we further find the defendant did not cause serious physical harm to the alleged victim, but that finding is not necessary as a matter of law. Verdict form number 4, we, the jury in the above captioned case, find the defendant, Brooke Skylar Richardson, guilty of the offense of abuse of a corpse.
What a dramatic moment inside the courtroom there, as you saw the reaction from Skylar Richardson. And this was a case last year here on Court TV. And yeah, there was a guilty at the end, but it was kind of like a throw-in at the end, not really a big deal. I mean, the big deal were the first two. And it was not guilty, not guilty. They accused her of giving birth and then burning her baby. Remember this photo? This was the prom picture where she hid her pregnancy from her entire family, hid a birth inside the home from her family. Now, the defense argued that it was a stillborn child, and then she buried the child in the backyard. That's the conviction abuse of a corpse. But she was accused of giving birth to a live baby and burning the child. Wow. She did speak before sentencing when she was, after she was convicted. Let's listen to that.
Ms. Richardson, you get the last word in all of this. Is there anything that you want to tell me before I impose a sentence?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would do anything and above that you ask, and I understand. And I just wanted to say how sorry I was. I can sometimes be selfish, but I would like to think that I've become better in the knowledge that I've upset everyone and hurt so many people with what I've done. And I'm forever sorry, and I'm so sorry. I'm really, really sorry, and I understand. And thank you.
That was before she was sentenced. Let's listen to the sentence given to her by the judge.
I find that you are amenable to community control. It's a mandatory community control case. I'm going to place you on 3 years of basic supervision. I'm going to impose upon you the standard rules of community control, and I'm going to delegate to your officer the ability to make special or additional conditions as they see fit. I'm going to order as a term of your community control that you spend 7 days in the county jail. I'm going to credit you the 7 days that you have already done, which means that you are going to be going home today. Your stated prison term is going to be 12 months in prison. I'm not sending you to prison today, but if you violate the terms of community control, I can impose up to the maximum penalty in this case. This includes an optional period of post-release control. If I send you to prison, the adult parole authority then has the option but not the requirement to supervise you for up to 3 years after your release. If they impose that supervision and you violate the terms, you can be returned to prison for up to 1/2 of my original sentence. Or if you violate by committing a new felony, then you can be returned to prison for up to 1 year or the amount of time you have left on post-release control. It's automatically whichever of those is the longer period. It's automatically consecutive to the sentence that you would receive for the new felony. None of this prison business matters to you at all as long as you don't violate the terms of community control.
And so far she hasn't, but she's going into court tomorrow to try to get released from community control / probation early. So, I mean, they've already won the war. Now they're going to try to win the war even more. Let me bring in Court TV special contributor Ashley Banfield. Ashley, this is a case I'll never forget. But let me start here, a little perspective on this and this young woman, right? She's got a whole life to live, right? What do you think that life will be like, having gone through what she's gone through, right? Accused of being a monster, an absolute monster, burning her baby, giving live birth and burning a newborn. She was found not guilty. And it turns out that whole confession, alleged confession, and there was no evidence that the child was even burned. So I got to put that aside for just a second because it got me really angry during the trial. But what do you think her life is going to be like, and how do you move on from something like this?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of details that, true crime fans who watched that trial on Court TV and who lived every moment of it will understand that there was something really uncomfortable about the fact that this young girl woman, I mean, she was 17, was being interrogated and just sort of agreed to, sure, I guess I tried to cremate the baby. And as it turned out, the forensic expert who said there were burned bones had to recant that and say, I was wrong. There's actually no evidence of burning. So, why would a girl confess to that? To that suggestion? It really does give you an indication that, sometimes teenagers and frightened, young people can be manipulated and are very suggestible, because she ended up agreeing with what was being put in front of her. And then ultimately, the forensics didn't prove that out, which probably was a big part of why the jury gave her a pass on the aggravated murder. I mean, look, she was facing life for aggravated murder, involuntary manslaughter, and child endangerment, as well as the abuse of a corpse. So you bet, Vinny, she skated on the war and, avoided life in prison and got a real cakewalk with abuse of a corpse and only 3 months or 3 years community control. But to your bigger question, what will life be like for her, whether or not she prevails tomorrow? Let's just be honest, like whether or not she gets this, relief from the next 2 years of community control. She's still got a big, long life. She's only 21. Um, that's a good question. Depends on if she decides to stay near Lebanon, Cincinnati, right? Lebanon, Cincinnati suburb. It depends on if she gets married and changes her name, because, Brooke Schuyler Richardson's kind of identifiable, but, Brooke Smith isn't. So there are a lot of things that I think she could do to shed the vestiges of this really awful legacy, right? Because there's nothing more awful about the story of a young girl who hides a pregnancy, gets dressed up in a prom dress. The child is born, stillborn or murdered, whatever side you believe. She was acquitted of that, and she just buries the corpse in the backyard, having never told anybody, allegedly. That's not something you shake easily, especially when you're found texting that same day, I got my belly back, woo, like I'm thin again. So I don't know. And I'll be honest, Vinny, I think the bigger question is, how will the community feel? They've got these images like burned into their mind of a young girl who was on her way to prom smiling away. I mean, clearly pregnant, but hiding this from everyone. How will the community feel? There were a lot of really angry people. I mean, their home, the Richardson's home, was picketed, and there were protests everywhere. There were people protesting the court. She was called a baby killer. I mean, it was awful. And there were people really angry that, she was acquitted. So I think if that same community now hears that the skate and the cakewalk that she got is going to be diminished, that could probably open some old wounds in the community.
This case, to me, the false confession got me angry because it was obviously a false confession. But during the course of the trial, the investigator he wouldn't let it go. He was still insisting that the child was burned, even though their expert said there was no evidence of it. And the only evidence of it came from that same expert. It's mind-boggling to me that the system. Now, the bottom line is that baby never had, should have had a chance to live if she had done the right thing and just told her mom, listen, I'm pregnant, or gone to the doctor, or do the things you're supposed to do. I mean, that baby should be alive. So,
Not everyone's convinced, though, by the way, of that. Not everyone's convinced that she never told her mom. Look, the other half of us, not you, but the women in the world, we were all 16, 17-year-old girls, and you don't just typically head off to the OBGYN by yourself. It's an unusual thing to do. Not saying it doesn't happen. It does, but not everybody was completely convinced that she hadn't told some people about this. But no matter what, if she had, no one was talking.
Now, if the mom was told, right, and that means that the mom was told and did nothing for her grandchild, that, to me, I can't imagine that either. I mean, anything's possible. We see it every day here on Court TV, but I just could not imagine that. Do you think justice was served in this case?
Listen, that's really hard. It depends on what side, of the court you were sitting on, right? And I think that for a lot of the people in the community, they feel it wasn't served. They feel like that this family was very privileged, and that Brooke was very privileged, and she was given, a privileged form of justice that lots of other people in this world may not have received if they didn't have the money or the white skin color, some would say as well. So, and if you're Brooke, look, this was a good kid, right? She was a cheerleader. She was going off to college. She wasn't a criminal. She wasn't a bad kid. She wasn't sort of set out to ruin the world around her for her own good. So it just depends on what side you sit on, because, clearly it takes two to make a baby, and whoever the other part of that wasn't helping out here, right? And didn't face any of the same responsibilities or charges, and didn't do the same acts clearly as well. But when you're left alone at that age, in a world where that's just a very frightening proposition, that's a very scary reality as well. So if it happened the way Brooke said it happened, then yeah, I guess justice was served. If it didn't happen the way Brooke said it happened, then justice wasn't served. I'm sorry that's unsatisfying, but I think in this case, there's a lot of dissatisfaction.
Yeah, it's not. It was a sad case. It was sad all around, because at the end of the day, there was a child who didn't have a chance.
Hey, Vinny, do you want to know something weird? I had to kind of think back on my career here, but I started covering, general news back in 1988. So 33 years. I know, I don't look it. But one of the first stories I covered back in Edmonton, Canada, was about a young girl, and I think she was 16 or 15, who hid her pregnancy and lived at home, had the baby, and dropped it off on a doorstep in her community. And then about a year or two later, it happened again. And she got pregnant again and had a full term pregnancy in her home, hiding it from her parents and everyone around her, and then ultimately went to a hotel room, I believe, or an apartment with her boyfriend, and delivered that baby and then tossed it in a garbage can. So she was being tried for the second one when the details of the first one came out. And I remember just being so floored, wondering, is this going to be my career? Is this the kind of stuff that's normal in the courts? And as it turned out, there were a couple more along the way. So Brooke's not the first rodeo that I've been to with this kind of a story. And it does tell me that, young girls go into absolute paralysis when this kind of thing happens to them. And not everybody has the education and the support to help them through it.
Ashley Banfield, thank you so much.